Hi friends, for today's video we are actually going to do a craft. We're making a winter wreath. Today and around this time is usually when people start taking down their Christmas trees and they look for something else to put on their door that doesn't scream the holidays. So we're doing a little, like a snow time wreath with a few accessories right here. And we'll put that together for you in just a few minutes. I want to go through some of the things you'll need today. You will need some of this gauze. I got a big container, 5 sterile rolls at 3 inches and 2.5 yards. You might need a little more depending on how you want your wreath to go, but that's kind of standard. We also have some pom-poms. I got them at the Dollar Tree, just white ones. You can get various sizes as well if you'd like. We're also going to want a plant, fake of course. Today I went with some eucalyptus. I like this color because it's a little sedated. It's not in your face loud, but you can kind of go with whatever you want. Anything in the eucalyptus family will work, like silver dollar or seeded, but I just went with your basic eucalyptus. I have 2 different ribbons. You can go for 1 if you prefer. We have a 1.5 inch ribbon here in gray. I'm going to use this as a hanging ribbon, and then I also have a bow as well. I picked a polka dot bow to match the snowy effect that we're going to create with the pom-poms that you'll see later on. The tools you'll need today for your snow, you're going to need fishing line. I got the kind that can hold 20 pounds, which obviously the pom-poms won't come to that, but I like it a little stronger. You'll need a glue gun with some glue sticks for backup as well. You might need some wire cutters depending on what kind of flowers and plants you got for your wreath. You might need a knife, and you'll kind of need a few other accessories that you might need along the way, your basics, obviously scissors and things like that, depending on what you need. And obviously you need the wreath. I gave myself a little bit of a challenge. Since I couldn't find a basic white wreath, I have a green one. So what I am going to do before we get into the craft is I'm going to take my knife safely and take off this edge around here just to make it more round. And then I'm going to cover it with white paint because once we start putting the gauze on there, I don't want you to see the green coming through. But if by some chance you do, the good thing is it matches the eucalyptus.
Okay, we're going to get started on the craft. As you can see, I did like a white paint over my wreath base. You can clearly see some of the green through it because it absorbed a lot of the white paint. My suggestion to you would definitely be to get a white wreath if you can. Obviously, like I said earlier, I wasn't able to find one. So I kind of cut down the edges to curve it a little more and painted it with the white. Now we are covering it, so it's not the biggest deal, but if you do see any through it, I like the fact that it does go with the eucalyptus I chose, so it'll kind of blend it a little bit together. So if you do see a little bit of green, it won't be the end of the world. Okay, so I want you to start, once you have your wreath, I want you to start by determining like where you want the top and bottom to be. I'll show you a picture at the beginning of this video so you kind of get an idea of like where we're going with this so you know what's happening. But we're basically going to be having a bow at the bottom with one of your ribbons if you chose 2. If you chose 1, obviously you'll have the same ribbon at the top and bottom, but you'll have a bow at the bottom, and we're going to use some ribbon to hang it from the top. So just to keep that in mind. The reason why is once you start wrapping this, you'll know kind of where your start and end point are. There will be a bow and a lot of our material down here. So if you kind of start running out, that gives you a gauge of this is kind of the area it's okay to run out in. Now I do have what we're using is the rolled gauze, and I have 3 inches by 2.5 yards, and I have 5 of those. I would always say weigh on the side of getting more, because obviously this is something you can use in your household as well. So if you have extra, this is always something you can use. Okay, let me find the end piece here. Now like I said, this is my bottom, so I'm going to start maybe about right here with the acknowledge that I'm going to try to cover to this point. If I can go over that, that's great. If not, I can cover that up with some material later on. Now this is pretty simple. And this is not, let me start by saying this is not going to be a graceful covering. The goal is to make it look sort of cloud-like. Cloud-like, snow-like. So I just put a little bit of hot glue, started this here to hold it down. Let me replace my glue stick. They're not there just yet. And we really don't need to put glue over the entire thing to hold it in place, obviously. Now, when you're wrapping around, try to hold the bulk of it in your hand and flip through. And it looks pretty good. It looks like it's going to cover the green. I just hope I have enough to get around. Now, as you're seeing here, I'm not laying it out flat. So we're not going around it gracefully. There are going to be lumps and bumps like here where a little twisted. So kind of as you're going throughout it, twist it every now and again. You can lay some flat, like the beginning part, but other portions of it, curl it up. We're wanting a more uneven texture around. Now, as you can see, I reached my end of my first bit of it. So I'm putting a little bit of glue to hold that, seal that down. Now let's jump back to the front a little bit. Now, obviously, if you can see here, there's a little bit showing. I can just manipulate that. Since we didn't glue the entire thing down, this is a very easy thing to manipulate around to cover different areas, to create a little bit more texture. Like that. So it's like, it very much looks like fabric that's been just carried around. Now you are going to continue that with all the gauze that you have until you either get back here or somewhere in this region. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. As you can see, I'm back to the beginning. I actually only used 3 of my 2.5 yards of gauze. I actually have 2 left over. Now, obviously, like I said earlier, you can use these inside your home, but I'm actually going to at least use one of them and start back over and go back around again. Except this time when I do it, I'm going to try to twist it tight like this and pull as I go around to just add a little bit more texture. I'm not going to worry about this spot right here since we'll be covering it with a lot of material later on. As you can see here, I finished up with the wrapping and I actually really enjoyed that, how it comes together a little bit here. And I will say, kind of go along and make sure you cover up your little spaces. Again, leaving that undone at the bottom. This will be the bottom of my wreath. This is the top. I really liked how this came through here and kind of just add that extra layer to it. I do like that. And I also do want to point out, I haven't checked the video yet, so I'm not sure what it looks like. But one of my fearful things when I first started doing this was I didn't want it to look like a mummy. I did not want a Halloween feel to it. And I definitely have to say, once I'm finishing it, it does not have that. So thank goodness for that, obviously. And I have my last roll, which I'll save and put aside for maybe another project or if we need it in case of a medical emergency. Now let me start this next portion by telling you that this, in my opinion, will be the hardest part. We are going to be gluing, you probably can't see this, but we're going to be gluing our fishing line to our pom-poms. Now, before I do that, I've already prepped all of them except for one so I can show you. My advice for doing this is to put a little bit of hot glue on each one at a time. Let it dry slightly. Don't go all the way. The problem is if you put this through there, when it's really wet, it falls right back out. So wait till it's just a little bit semi-cooled down. That way it's a little more tacky and you can put this in and it'll stick better. And obviously once you kind of manipulate it with your fingers or anything else, like it's not so hot. If you are a little nervous about it being hot, you can use toothpicks. It's kind of what I did early on in a few of them until I realized that obviously if you wait for it to be a little more cooled down, it does help. And you'll just have this little pom-pom at the end of the string. Now, obviously the fishing line twirls, so that's not a big deal. That is okay. Now I want you to turn your wreath so the bottom is towards you. Let's make sure that is possible. There we go. And you're going to start gluing, and again, I said this is the challenging part, these little pom-poms to the bottom. Like we'll say like right along there. Now, one thing I do have to say is when you do cut your fishing line, it doesn't have to be any certain length. Just like I said, your pom-poms can be varying sizes, so can your fishing line. The goal we're going for is like snow falling down. So you can have some that are really long and some that are relatively short. Now, bear in mind, we are putting a bow here along with some material, some of the greenery we have. And my bow, I have it already made here, goes about right here, as you can see. So you don't really want any pom-poms shorter than this because you won't be able to see them anyway. So kind of at least make them that long. And what you're going to do, simple as can be, just run a length of hot glue across here. Now don't worry about the hot glue drying completely before you get all of these on, because like I said, it is a lot easier to get this wire into that when it's not as hot. And if you need to reapply more as you go, that is perfectly fine. Again, this area will be covered. So if you have layers of hot glue, it's not the end of the world. And you're just going to take your fishing line and just kind of embed it in there. One added bonus is once this is all on there and all our materials on there, that will hold this fishing line in there as well. Now, unfortunately, I did not count how many pom-poms on fishing line that I made, but there is quite a bit. And you're just going to go through here and do this repeatedly with all of them. No size order, just like if you have longer strings, put them throughout. We're not doing this just like snowfalls. We're not doing this in any pattern of any sort. As you can see, I'm going ahead and adding more glue on there. Let it dry just a little bit. One good thing also is when you add more glue, it does create another layer to hold down the ones you put underneath. Now I'm kind of sealing all of them off, as you can tell, with another layer of hot glue. Yes, we are using a lot of hot glue. Now with that last layer that I'm sealing all of them off with, I'm also going to adhere my bow. If you don't want to use hot glue to adhere the bow, you can always use a wire or string around the back so you can't see it. One thing I love about this is, I think this is going to look really, I should say this is my opinion, but I think it's going to look really good in the end, because I am really replicating everything you see. There's a lot of white throughout, but a big thing is, if you see the polka dots here in this bow, it really matches the snow. We have all the pom-pom snow we have. And I also picked up, I know I said at the beginning of the video I was doing some eucalyptus, but I also found some berries that I painted white. Unfortunately, they don't look the best because they were red. If you have white berries, that would look even better. But again, that replicates those dots. So that's really going to pull this look together. And now you are done with your fake snow. And here we go. Now on to adding our greenery. Oh, my fingers are just covered in hot glue. Isn't that appealing? Okay, now when you want to add your greenery, I'm going with greenery and some of the white berries. There's a few ways you can do this. The gauze is thin enough that if it's wired or you have enough of a wire base on the end of it, you can just poke it right on in. That is my preferred method, because if I want to make more wreaths down the line, I can take this part pretty easily and reuse it. Most of my eucalyptus has that in it, that you can just poke it through, but if not, I do know some of my pieces here are a little smaller from other projects that I have done, then I can easily use the hot glue again and add that in as well. Now we are going to try to, as you can see, I'm flattening it, so your bow is kind of taking the center. I can finish that towards the end, no big deal. This one, as you can see, is been stringed together from another project. So obviously I don't want to take all that apart, so I will use my hot glue on that one. Ah, messy hot glue. I use hot glue for everything, even things you probably should not be using them for. I have it's one of my favorite things. I'm a huge fan of hot glue over super glue. I have a tendency to just glue myself to everything when I use super glue. And I burn myself with hot glue, but at least that I can remove myself from. But you're just going to continue doing this until you feel it is prepped, just a good amount, equal on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And you'll also see me be putting in some of the white berries as well. Just kind of disperse. There's no, in my opinion, no mathematical way of doing this. I shouldn't say that. There is a mathematical sense to it in a way, because there are rules to design. So there is like I guess you could say a science or mathematics to it, but really it's also just your eye. I know I've did some posts about design on my blog in the past. So if you want to check those out, just to give you an idea of where you're headed. But the beautiful thing about the elements and design principles and all that stuff, what is so crazy about them is, even if you never took an art class, so you don't really know what they are, your mind still does. Like, have you ever walked in a room and somebody organized some paintings on the wall, and you're looking at them and something's just off about the organization of it, but you can't put your finger on what it is? That's because your brain knows the design principles. Even if you can't put a word to it, it could be off by like balance or rhythm or color or any of the elements and principles. And you may not be able to say that, but your mind knows it. So as you're doing this, even though you may not have those words in your mind, just look at it. And you'll be able to tell, like, oh, this looks a little off. This looks a little, something's wrong here. And one big thing that on any project you're working on, the advice I will always give you, you're not seeing me do this here since I'm recording it, step back and look at it from a distance. When you're all up in it, you have a tendency not to see different things that are happening. Step back. hold your project up. Especially a project like this that will be hanging. That also helps you if anything falls off, because God knows about these pom-poms down here. So we will see. But definitely step back, take a better view of your project from a distance. So I'm going to go ahead and keep attaching some things, get a little bit of bulk. I'm going to try to build it up just a little bit. I'm not going all the way around the wreath, as you'll see. I'm a huge thing with that when it comes to my wreaths, you'll see, is I put the bulk of my weight on one side, but I will do a little bit on another side. And again, the reason why that works is that is balance, which again comes back to your elements and principles. That you can have like an asymmetrical look, but it still looks balanced. It's a little hard to achieve, but in my opinion, I think I'm relatively good at it. I don't know why, but I'm rambling here, so let me continue sticking some of my things in here, and we'll go from there. Okay, as you can see, I've finished up here a little bit. Now I'm just gonna go through and fix the bow and kind of zhuzh it up a little bit to make it a little bigger, because it kind of got flattened during the process. Now, one of the goals is, since these are wired, I'm going to bend some of them forward. So you're kind of having them going out all directions. It's not just flat across. Okay. Now, obviously, you can also do a little bit of your fixing up once it's hanging, because you're still going to be manipulating it a little bit, so it might get flattened again. And you're almost done. Your final piece is you're going to be creating your ribbon for the hanging part. I already went ahead and cut mine. Now, I can't tell you how long you're going to need this, because it all depends on how you're hanging it. If you're hanging it from a hook, ours is going to be a little shorter for our place, because we have a nail in the door, and the nail is kind of, it's a lot lower than what I would want the wreath to be if I was trying to hang it from something. Like if I realistically could just put the nail on the back of here and just hang it from there, but I really would like this ribbon to sit on the top. So I kind of cut this pretty short. I also cut it with a little bit of extra on the end. Maybe I would say 2 to 4 inches just for tying, and that alone. And this is extremely simple. Now, as I said at the beginning, your ribbons can match. I didn't do that just because that wasn't my preference. You're literally just going to carry it underneath, bring it right here, and just tie. We're not doing anything glamorous with the tying process, obviously. If I can even tie it. It's a little hard to tie this thick of a ribbon. Now, one thing I will mention that you can do is if, as you can see this knot here, you have a choice. You have a few, actually. You can cut off the ends, which I don't think I'm going to do. I kind of like the natural look of it. I will cut off those little strings, however. Or, well, if I can. You can obviously leave that exposed just like that. It's not a super strong knot, but this doesn't weigh that much. Or you could create a second bow depending on how long this is and put a second bow here to cover that up. Now, I'm personally not going to do that because, like I said, it's not that long, and having a bow right here when you have the bow at the base, in my opinion, won't look the best. So I'm just leaving it natural like that. And you could also, like I said, if you have a nail in your door, you can just hang it directly from this. I, in my opinion, like this, like we talked about earlier, the balanced look. Just this color being a little bit darker than most of anything else kind of adds that balance to the top. So that's why I went with a darker ribbon, which you can too. And that's another reason why I want the ribbon there, is so it helps you create that balanced look. Now we are going to go ahead and hang it up. And when I hang it up, I'm going to zhuzh out some things, pull this a little more forward, fix up the bow a little more. And then obviously with the pom-poms at the base right now, since it's been sitting, they're probably just a little bit tangled. And I would say to untangle them carefully. You aren't going to want to pull because even though they are on there pretty secure, if you're going to tug at them, they are going to come off. So don't go about doing that. So just try to easily unwind them. It does not have to be perfect. You cannot see a fishing line from a distance, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, and that was our craft for today. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments below if it's something you want to try out, or let me know if you've already done it. You can like this video, subscribe please, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for more information. I'll post a little bit about this video and some other crafts that we've done over on my blog. So it was nice checking in with you guys. I hope you have fun making this craft and enjoying what's left of the winter before you head into spring. You have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.